Um, so vis-a-vis the bar you were showing us
Yes.
with healthcare expenditures, do you, I'm going to ask you a question about the past as a
Yep.
futurist, but um, do you know of any time when a group of people or an industry has sort of voluntarily scaled back its footprint in a society? Like, I feel like what we need to do is somehow voluntarily say, actually, America, you should be investing less money in healthcare and you should be investing more money in social services.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know how it feels sort of like something that an organism by definition can't do.
right. I agree with you. Um, and so to this question of somebody asking a question.
Drywall, stairwell to his body where his injuries were, they could match them perfectly.
Hey, remote sites. There's a great discussion happening that we can't quite hear all of. But if you could just mute your line, that'd be awesome. And we'll come to your question in just a minute. So to get to this question that was asked here, the one thing that we can't do is outrun our humanity. It's like evolutionarily, we just have not come a lot. Well, you know, these cycles are like generational cycles. So spring is a generation, summer, fall, winter, and so forth. So our meat suits don't last long enough for us to have gone through one entire cycle. So it's like God's little trick that like every 80 to 100 years we go through another winter cycle, and nobody who's alive can remember that we did it before and what we had to do to get out of it. So unfortunately, the most compelling change from this kind of, you know, can we edit ourselves? The most compelling change comes from the outside. Very unusual for people to do it internally, unless there is something that is highly incentivized about it that the inside does. And I've got a thought about how you guys can think about it, but I want to leave it till the end if that's okay. So I don't know of any models where a system self-organizes to consume less money, especially not in a capitalist society like the United States. It's going to take policy, or it's going to take a significant gun to the head or incentives inside the system. Another question back here. Yes.
So before I ask my question, I have to comment though on my new acronym because I'm a CPA.
Yeah.
So I'm now continuous partial attention.
Yeah, baby, you got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Does it fit? Does the shoe fit?
I guess. Ask my children. They'll tell you.
Okay.
No, but I guess my question had to do with your Watson example.
Yep.
And even in my profession, and certainly when I think in the old group of healthcare professionals we have in this room, I guess my question is, I don't completely necessarily agree with your statement that we can just rely on compassion. That's the only we can roboticize everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to analyze the numbers. The robots can spit out the numbers for me, but I have to analyze them.
Yep.
I have to tell and advise the department about how to move financially forward. And I think the same thing with physicians. I mean, we have to have the
right.
Not only the compassion, but we have to see the people. We have to see the patients. And I guess particularly in healthcare, I guess.
I don't disagree with you. I was trying to use one example of a very human skill that Watson doesn't have. Watson doesn't have compassion. So let me try to restate this in a way that's going to make more sense. What robots are getting very good at doing, and data systems are getting very good at doing, is executing anything that is rules-based. If this, then that, right? They're very good at that. They are increasingly becoming good at pattern recognition. So that's why Watson can give the Sloan Kettering doctors 4 possible, diagnoses. What they are not good at doing are like what you're talking about you still have to give advice. That's judgment, right? Robots don't have that. They don't have judgment. So when you look at all of the things that, I guess the idea is how to think about the work that you deliver based on what is rules-based, what is kind of programmable. That stuff eventually could be the domain, right? But the other pieces are the part where Watson can never replace you. So thank you for helping with the clarification. Other questions? Yes, please. Hang on. This is like Phil Donahue. Another generational moment, Kushner. Caller, you say what?
Kind of a comment and a question to you because I think one of the things that I definitely see in our future is that we're going to have a population that is even more diverse than what we have right now.
Yep.
And particularly me representing Latinos, I know that we are really reproducing massively.
You guys are doing a great job.
So I want you to comment of what is that you see as the United States becomes more diverse. How is that we're going to be able to provide care, not only medical care, but many other services that populations
Right.
need?
Yep. So there's the near term, and it's going to be painful. And then there's going to be the longer term that's going to be really smooth. So in the near term, when you look at, and this is one of the things that I feel so lucky to be alive during this moment, because America hasn't gone through something like this in terms of demographics since it was founded, since the Irish immigrants hit the shores. And so what the amount of demographic change that I'm going to see in my lifetime is going to be greater than anything my previous 3 generations have seen. The question then becomes, how do we do that skillfully, right? And I believe the truth is that the first bit is absolutely disgusting. It is painful. It is what we are experiencing in Madison right now. It is what this country is experiencing, where we have a majority population that does not understand its own privilege. It is part of a system that has advantaged itself. And so it becomes nearly impossible for the majority population without a lot of intention to get out of its own way in that space. So one of the things that you're going to start to see as we go from being, a majority Caucasian to a minority Caucasian and a majority, people say majority minority, which doesn't make any damn sense, but you're going to start to see one of the early signs is cross-silo cooperation. So white people who have a real intention to understand this better and who put diversity and inclusion on the map, they start auditing the organization against it. They put a real effort into it. And then, because the majority is required to help this go, because if the majority does not, there will be revolution, right? And this is what you're starting to see in some cities, right? Baltimore has been unable to get out of its own way, right? So the institutionalized racism that is there is just is coming to a head. And the definition of revolt, the causes of revolt are when a population believes that it is going to achieve something and it never comes true. You look at the French Revolution, the American Revolution, you look at, look at what's happening with Cuba right now, right? So there's going to be more, if you're doing this elegantly, more cross-pollination. And that's in the near future, and it's going to be ugly, and we're going to have to make ourselves uncomfortable. All of us are going to have to make ourselves a little uncomfortable for those kids who are going to be sitting in that row of chairs. But longer term, and what's already happening is, our families are becoming mixed. So like my 88-year-old Caucasian waspy mother, right? She is not, so, the pain. She does not understand why she needs to vote for a school referendum, because she looks at the schools now and she's like, all of those kids are in the school. She sees this difference, right? But then when my cousins are marrying African Americans and they're marrying Latinos and Latinas, suddenly she's like, oh, right? Those aren't those people. Those are actually my people and my tribe. And that's actually how the change is going to become really beautiful over time, because we're just going to become this, we're just this kind of notion of, it sounds so mushy, but like one human family. That's what's going to happen. There won't be any othering because we are congealing. So near term for you and I, ugly. Long term, it's going to be amazing. And we've done it before. America has done it before. So, other questions? Yes. Hit me. I can repeat it too. How should a department make intentional change if not through strategic planning can get you part of the way there, right? I think intention should be the fuel, right? What is your intention? And strategic planning can get you part of the way there. What are we going to do 12 months from now, 18 months from now, 36 months from now that are going to help us become more of who we believe we need to become? That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. This is like the laundry. It's never done. I mean, if you're wearing clothes, you're creating laundry. But I am going to come back to intention when I close this up. What other questions?
How do we get to spring, and what does the spring era look like?
Okay, so I estimate that spring will be here around 2020. It started in 2001 when the World Trade Center got hit. And then winter always starts with like a spark that just sets off this chain reaction of disgusting ickiness. And, that's what happened. By 2002, the bull market hit another bump. Wall Street started freaking out. They invented what we now know has caused the mortgage meltdown. By 2008, 2009, we're in a full-blown recession. And this malaise, right, that has set in. Washington can't get anything done. This is textbook winter in America. So I estimate that spring will be here in about 2020. And it's interesting because if we polled everybody in this audience and we said, do you feel like, let's just do it real quick. I'm going to give you 3 options, and I want you to think about your family situation, just what's closest to you, your family situation, knowing what everybody went through during the recession, how hard it was, right? That was deep winter. So do you feel right now, like in your own family situation, do you feel like you're still sort of in winter? Like I know in my family situation last year, my brother was still unemployed. He had been unemployed for 4 years. It felt like winter in that family, right? So think about your own family situation. Do you feel like you're still kind of in the cold of winter? Option 2, do you feel like, things are starting to thaw? Things are starting to feel a little bit easier. We're taking a vacation, we're planning a vacation. Think about your own. 3 is like, dude, we are in spring. Like it feels like new growth. It feels really hopeful. It feels optimistic. So just close your eyes. Just humor me on this. Just close your eyes real quickly. And option 1, deep winter, put your hand up in the air. Option 2, okay. Option 3, you are in spring and all you can smell is pollen and amazingness. Okay, put your hands down, open your eyes. The vast majority, about 83% of you, said that you feel that you're in the early part of spring. You chose option 2. And so when we really start feeling like we're in spring, it'll be probably about 2020. And how do we get from there to here? Well, the first thing is, I want you to recognize that the skills that are required to navigate through a wintertime period are different than the skills to navigate through a spring or a summer or a fall. I mean, it's one of the reasons that some companies aren't coming into spring. It's because they're still being managed by leaders with a wintertime period, a wintertime freak out fest where they're just battening the hatches, they're not investing in everything, they are masters of no. And that is needed for a moment during winter. But when things start to soften, you have to start to place some bets in areas where you're going to, need some things when spring comes again. So the first thing is you have to have a different mindset. The winter to spring mindset is different. The second thing is if you are not uncomfortable right now, if you are not being asked to work in different configurations, being asked to integrate different things, being asked to partner in different ways, you're probably not doing spring right. Is this a sign of winter that the lights just dim? It's an energy saving feature. Awesome. Not moving around enough. And the reason is because in spring, new combinations are required, right? New combinations of people, new combinations of ideas. So like I always threaten people that when African American and Latina moms start partnering with charter schools, you will see a transformation in education because no one cares more about getting their kids out of crappy public schools than underserved populations, right? So you put them together with the money people, and you're going to have something pretty significant on your hands. So you're going to start working in different sort of combinations, and you should be a little bit uncomfortable. And the other thing that starts to happen when spring comes again is that, kind of tied back to your question, the way we describe we changes. The way we describe we changes. So here's an example. Do you remember when Warren Buffett kind of said, he held up his tax statement and his secretary's tax statement, and he said, I can't believe I pay less in taxes than my assistant does. I don't know if you remember that. Warren Buffett was reframing we. He was saying that for all of us, we need to be thinking about fairness. He was trying to come out of his class of the upper 1% and reframe this as a we situation. And like when you go to a gay pride parade, right? And you've always got the P flag group, the parents and friends of lesbians and gays. I mean, by definition, parents of gays are usually straight, right? So usually, not always, but like usually straight. And when you start to see people who are not gay, like marching for gay rights, that's usually a sign of spring, right? The white people, the Caucasians who marched the square after Tony Robinson's verdict came out earlier this week, right? So the definition of we starts to change. Those are three kind of top of mind examples. Give me something else. What do we got next? 2. They're having a little war over the microphone there.
So as a follow-up to Kirsten's question, if healthcare will not voluntarily step down and say, please, invest less in us and give it to this cause over here, is it possible, or have you seen examples of sort of a merger where we could become something different that might serve the population in a different, more effective way?
And I think that's probably closer to the solution. It's an evolutionary versus a kind of a binary, like we're going to stop doing this, we're going to full-scale reinvention, more evolutionary. I want to get to some of my closing notes here because it's come up twice. And I want to suggest that one way to help you, make the shift, just as backup, I read the papers that have been circulated and I read the proceedings of the Blue Skies and I did some Google searching for the future of family medicine. And the most cited paper, I think it had 1,300 citations, was this work that has been done by a group of 7 family medical centers on reinventing the future of family medicine. And I read who was in there, and I read all the papers and it is really hard for a system to reinvent itself, right? Seeing the forest for the trees. So as I was thinking about your process, this question came up for me. Where are your weirdos? And I'm not talking about community members per se, but I'll tell you a quick story. There are really only 2 industries in America that do futuring well. One is the U.S. military, and the second one is the energy sector, right? A lot of futurists work in those sectors. And one of my colleagues is a retired DOD, and he's a working futurist in Arlington, Virginia, and the DOD hired him to do conferences on the future of terrorism. Starting in 1997, he got a 3-year contract. And the DOD said, run these conferences, we need to be talking about the future of terrorism. And so he started to say, awesome, I'm gonna have 50 futurists come in, we're gonna work side by side with guys with the bars and the stripes, and we're gonna figure this out together. They said, no, we are gonna do panels, we are gonna do plenary sessions, and this is top secret information, nobody without bars and stripes is gonna be allowed in. And my friend was like, all right, whatever. So he did this conference for 3 years, 97, 98, 99. His contract came up. They said, we want to give you another 3-year contract. He said, I won't do it. He said, there is no new thinking coming out of this. We're doing the same shit this year that we were doing 3 years ago. And I don't think we're even scratching the surface of what the future of terrorism is going to be like. And the DOD acquiesced. And they said, okay, bring futurists. So he brought a bunch of us. He brought a bunch of weirdos. And we sat with these mostly guys, all the same haircut. I mean, you can't get more homogenous than the military. And we came up with outlandish, plausible futures for terrorism. Some of them were so outlandish that the DOD would not publish them in the official transcript of the conference. And you want to know what some of those outlandish ideas were? Poison through the mail. Commercial aircraft flying into Twin Towers. You go back now and you look at what we did in that conference, and it will blow your mind how on the money we were, but it was seen as outlandish. So when I think about the future of family medicine, and I look at what's been done at a national level, you can't put all of you in a room and say make something new, right? It's so difficult. So I don't know who your weirdos are, but that is one way for you to sort of jump the inevitable, right? One way for you to get some really innovative ideas out there. So, is that okay? All right. We have time for one more.
This isn't really a question, but it's really back to who your weirdos are.
Are you a weirdo?
No, well, sometimes people right now. But sometimes our patients are the ones who need to be here. And having seen some work, when we put patients in a room, the staff, the doctors go, "Oh, really? You don't like that?" No, we don't. So stop doing.
Yes.
So I think we have to engage more, and we have to get people who aren't even our patients. We need to get our homeless, we need to get our diverse patients in a room and hear them, and in front of us so we can hear it. 'Cause
Yeah.
we do like you did, and then
Diversify
it
the room.
doesn't work.
Right, right. You know, I do a lot of work for cities, and I am a huge fan of public spaces. Green spaces, they're just fantastic. They're like community gathering spots, they're equalizers, and by equalizer, I mean, you know, they're a place where people from all different strata come together, and you can't hide. Like, you know, when you are next to the kid who looks like a tattoo box blew up in his face, you know, you can't pretend that you live in a community of people who value what you do, right? Which is not face piercings. So I love community parks. And when I started doing work for cities on the future of city parks, the first question I asked were, who are the power users of your parks? And they are stroller moms. In most communities, they're stroller moms, like stay-at-home parents and increasingly dads. And by the way, dads are like shunned at community parks because the moms are like, hey, creeper, you know, what are you doing at a park? They think they're child molesters or, you know, whatever. Anyway, so power users of parks are moms with strollers during the day, but the homeless at night. So when you start reinventing parks, this is my favorite kind of research. I am park bench researcher. I will sit in a park and I will just watch what happens. Sometimes I take video of like what is happening, and that helps you see how that park could work better. So when IDEO was asked to reinvent the emergency room system, they faked a patient heart attack, and that person had a tiny little camera, and it was undeniable what that patient experience was like while they were having a heart attack. They took it to that group and they said, here's what your emergency room experience is like. And it was those moments of like, really? Ooh, we did that? Like all those cringe moments? Got the footage right here. So yes, who are your power users? Who are the outliers and the people who hardcore use these services? They are some of your weirdos. They are. Okay, is it okay if I wrap up here? Okay, 125. The final thing that I want you to consider as you are in this process is, you know, your steering committee has done a really great job of structuring these events, of bringing you outside thinkers. And I watched the videos of your major two previous speakers who can come and like sort of shake their heads out, you know, shake their craniums out on the desk, and you can, you know, sift through the dust of it. And you've done a great job of saying this is why mission is important and this is why vision is important. And mission, as I read it in the sort of the charge papers, are mission is what we do and how we do it differently, right? Vision is where do we want to be 2 to 5 years from now? But the question that I encourage each of you to ask yourself is why? Why, right? Because mission and vision is about the what. It is about the what we do, and it's about the future, you know, that we intend. And it's kind of academic-ish, and it's measurable. I mean, if we have our way, we will have these outcomes that are also measurable. But the blood and guts and heart of this is why you do this work. This is why I talked about the chairs with the kids at the beginning, right? If I carry that row of kids with me everywhere, I know I'm showing up, all of me is showing up, right? I know from employee engagement research that when you get to people's why, they give their discretionary effort. Much like you guys showing up today. I know you all have a strong why, or you wouldn't come here during lunch, you know, and listen to this whack job. right? You must have a strong why, but let's put that in the mix as well. And maybe it's a personal contemplation you do for yourself about why, but you got to bring it because this community needs you. Thank you.